Already started. Good evening, District 2 conference attendees. Welcome Toastmasters, current, past, and elect district dignitaries. Once again, can't speak this evening, and esteemed guests. My name is Shauna Broker, and I'm this year's annual conference, District 2 annual conference chair. Our theme this year is Reimagining Leadership. Be bold, ignite connections, and tonight's Ed session captures that spirit. Tonight's presentation will be interactive and include a Q&A session, so be thinking of questions. One small housekeeping item for tonight. The speaker will be recording the session, but due to the nature of the material, it will not be published at this time and no additional recording of any kind is permitted. Tonight's presenter is an Indian artist with over 30 years of experience in both the musical and visual arts. She has spent a lifetime seeking and exploring creativity in its various forms. She grew up in Nigeria and returned to India for college and a career in Bollywood. After she moved to Seattle. She has a bachelor's in graphic design, a master's in Hindustani classical music, and is currently pursuing a PhD in creativity. A Hindustani classical vocalist who has won many awards and accolades. She has performed all over the globe at major venues and also has her own music school, Swaragan School of Music in Seattle. She is a passionate teacher and trains students in the intricacies of classical and Bollywood music. Your speaker tonight also paints in oil and is trained with master painters. Her mediums include encaustics, graphite, charcoal, pen, ink, watercolor, and she exhibits her work all over the globe. In 2018, tonight's Ed Session speaker created and taught a unique course in creativity for the prestigious Symbiosis College of Arts and Commerce for their liberal arts honors students. She aims to use her own life experiences, her personal viewpoints, and life lessons to empower people to be able to tap into their creativity. Please welcome Chandana Dixit.
Thank you so much, Shauna, for that really nice and generous, detailed introduction. And a very good evening to everybody here. Before I actually start my presentation, I would like to request everyone to not record or use any of this material because it is copyrighted and part of my PhD studies. So all this is unpublished material. But I would like you to try and gain whatever you can from this because they are really precious insights that I think will help everyone to move forward on a really interesting subject, the subject being creativity, something that I think we all long for, that we are curious about. With this, I'll begin my presentation. As my title says, Creativity Unveiled, Access Your Genius. When you hear these words, you start to think that it's something separate, something out of your realm, because creativity is something that sounds interesting. But the minute we start to say your genius, we feel uncomfortable because we think that that's just something reserved for the legends, for someone like a Leonardo da Vinci, a Mozart, a Beethoven, or in today's times, an Oprah Winfrey, a Steve Jobs, an Elon Musk, and the likes. I really believe that creativity is something that we all inherently have within us. It is perhaps the deepest human longing. We all really desire to feel that sense of fulfillment where we were actually able to express ourselves to our best and fullest capacity. So then why is it that we're unable to connect with that creativity? I believe it's the lack of access to that, which is the issue. It's not about whether we have the creativity or not. I would like to begin the idea of exactly what creativity is, because I feel there's a lot of confusion on the topic. A lot of people feel that creativity is reserved just for artists, for for musicians, for innovators, I would like to urge you to think that creativity is indeed for everyone. It isn't really reserved for a particular person or a particular activity. It's creativity is something that everybody enjoys and can avail of. Apologize for the interruption. And actually, to make the idea of creativity a little more simplified, I would like to begin by telling you a Zen story, which might explain the nature of creativity a little better. There was once a Zen master. He was actually a master burglar, a thief. And he was getting on in years. And one day his young son comes up to him and says, "Father, could you please teach me our family trade?" So the father says, "You really want to learn burglary?" So he says, "Yes." And do keep in mind that this was in those ancient times when this guy, the thief, was actually one of the highest orders of his profession. It was actually considered a matter of honor and prestige if your house was burgled by this particular thief. So, and he never got caught. So that's why nobody could really point a finger at him, although everyone knew that he's the one. So anyway, the father agrees to teach the son the trade. And that night, both of them break into a home. When they break in, the son is amazed as to how the father scans the land, and he makes it straight to the closet, how soundlessly he finds the right place. Once they're near the closet, the father tells the son, "Go in and pick whatever you want." The son goes in. As soon as the son is in the closet, he hears the key turn, and before he knows it, he's confused as to why his father has locked him in. And then suddenly he hears the father raise an alarm saying, "Thief, thief, catch the thief." And he hears his father running away. The boy is in shock. He can't believe that his father just set him up. And through going through all those feelings of shock, horror, and just not believing what's going on, and at the same time wondering how the hell he's going to get out of this situation. In the meanwhile, the whole house is up and everybody's running around looking for the thief. The guy starts to peek through the keyhole to look and see what's going on. And he sees the housemaid walking in the direction of the closet. And out of nowhere, he finds himself making the sounds of a cat. Meow, meow. And sure enough, the maid comes and turns the key in the keyhole, and the door is open. The boy rushes out and he starts to run at a lightning speed. He gets out of the house and keeps running. In the meanwhile, the entire house is chasing after him. People are running, and this young boy is running at a speed that he never knew he possessed. He keeps running until finally he reaches his point of complete exhaustion, where he knows he just wouldn't be able to run any further. But he looks back to see the people still running after him. And so he sees a well right there in front of him, which has a huge stone boulder in front of it. He finds himself lifting that huge boulder and hurling it into the well. Something that his small body, frail body, you wouldn't imagine that he would be capable of doing that. But it's strange when the situation demands it, from where we are able to avail of that energy. As soon as that huge splash comes, people, as expected, start to go in that direction. And this boy quickly runs into the nearby forest. People imagine, due to that huge sound, that the burglar has fallen into the well and probably died, and they head back. the boy, really weary and tired, makes his way back home. As soon as he reaches home, he heads for his father's room and shakes his father awake. Father, father, how could you do this to me? The father, who is fast asleep, just says, oh, you're back. Go and sleep now. So the boy says, no, father, how could you do this to me? So the father tells him, didn't you say you wanted to be a burglar? Well, now you are. You learned the trait. You're back alive, and that's it. Go and sleep. So this actually explains the nature of creativity, that creativity isn't really a particular profession. It's actually the way you do things. Being an artist, a painter, a musician my entire life, I have seen so many artists and musicians really not being creative at all. And on the other side, I've seen um, a lot of people in what you'd consider ordinary day-to-day professions showing and exhibiting so much of creativity and kind of originality, a uniqueness in the way that they do things. So creativity really is for everyone. So what is the obstacle? The obstacle is that one actually has, imagine this to be like if you had $1 million of creativity in your bank, but every time you wished to access it, you had access to only 100,000. That's because it's there, but the how to access it is where there isn't clarity. So today, I really would want to go through that process. In fact, it all begins from a heightened sense of awareness. It becomes quite confusing to understand that term because what exactly is this awareness? This awareness is pretty much just self-awareness, because whenever we talk about creativity, it's about that self, that person, their originality. In fact, it has been this heightened sense of awareness that has allowed most of the innovations we know to have happened. It's like when Newton was sitting under the tree and he saw the apple fall straight down. That's when Newton's law of gravity came about. It was actually that quietness that allowed him to see that and make the connections. It's not that there wouldn't have been thousands of people who hadn't seen the apple fall straight down, but it took a Newton to make the connections and thereby help a law to be established. As was the case with Archimedes. He was actually just relaxing in the bathtub when suddenly the lightning sort of flashed and he had his eureka moment in which the Archimedes principle got established. And the funny story of how he was so excited that he ran out of the tub straight to the emperor's palace, completely naked. So that's the exciting moment when you see that light, when something magical just flows through you and you yourself don't know how that happened. So the only way that that can happen is through a heightened sense of awareness. I would like to believe that the same is the case with most of today's innovators, be it an Elon Musk, a Steve Jobs, and perhaps so many more. So how then do we develop this heightened sense of awareness? This can happen only through self-awareness. We've probably heard the term look inwards, look within. And I think that that's very confusing to a lot of people because what does looking inwards mean? I know that when I was younger, there was a lot of confusion within me that what does it mean look inwards? I mean, do I look into my hands, into my chest, into my feet? Where do I look? And what do I see there? So what we mean by looking inwards is at every aspect that we call ourself. How is that really working for us? So I would like to believe that there are preconditions that are required for creativity to manifest. For easy understanding, I've divided this in two sections. The first section has three parts, as does the second section. The first section is called body availability. According to ancient Indian yogic traditions, they believe that the body has three sheets or three aspects to it. The first is, of course, the physical body. So your physical body really requires a sense of your connection with it, because that's your vehicle. That's all that you have to really express with. So real attention to the physical body. Most of us kind of ignore that. And perhaps till a certain time, it's okay. When you're younger, you can afford perhaps to take your physical body for granted. But soon enough, you wouldn't be able to do that and get away with it. That's actually what happened to me. Being a singer, my voice is extremely precious to me, and I've always tried to be really careful. But unfortunately, I've had to deal with serious sinus issues, which has been a real problem in my journey, in my musical journey. I ignored the whole sinus issue, and before I knew it, it became allergic bronchitis. I still ignored it, and it finally became full-blown asthma. I was on very, very heavy medication. It was in the range of $200 plus per month. And it kept me foggy and cloudy, my mind. I never felt well. So I went back to my doctor and said, when am I going to get better? When will I be able to get off this medication? So she smiled at me and said, don't worry, you'll be able to stay on this medication your entire life. You won't have to suffer. I was horrified because it established the fact that I wasn't really getting better at all. I was just okay because I was taking these medicines. And that day I took a decision that I was going to take the matters in my hands and I was going to do something about this. I had been hearing of some of these ancient yogic healing processes, and I started to follow that. I started some very serious breathing exercises in a technique called pranayam, which really helped me a lot. I started meditation, as a lot of these illnesses are linked with your own emotional quotient, the way you handle your emotions. And I found that through these practices, I was not just able to heal, but actually reverse my condition. And today, 12 years after giving up my medicines, I'm on no medication at all. And my breathing is way better than it was 12 years back. So when we actually really start to investigate at the body level, that what are the things that really hold us back? I kept waiting, thinking that something would sort of heal itself. The things would just get better, but they don't really. They're asking for your attention. So respond and really look to see what is holding you back. Sometimes we have issues with the way we look, with situations where we might have been body shamed, with our physical appearance, with our physical limitations. And those are things which really get in the way of how we express ourselves, our creativity. So do take notice of this and see where things really hold you back. The second aspect is your mind or your mental body. This is actually perhaps the most challenging of all your body availability sections. And that's because the mind actually creates every action. So whatever you do is a result of the way your thoughts go. Most of us are constantly thinking just repetitive negative thoughts, and we don't realize, because we're so caught up in the thinking, that we never realize the impact that this has. Whereas the truth of the matter is, anybody who really wants to do something has to really focus on how they're going to get something done. So the mind is required. In fact, to be honest, the mind is perhaps man's greatest gift. It separates us from the rest of the planet. We have this higher sense of consciousness because of this intelligence, this mind. Unfortunately, in today's times, we have made that our biggest weakness. In fact, recently I heard of some really famous person who committed suicide, and her suicide note said that she just couldn't handle her mind anymore. So, how unfortunate is that? And for most of us, we just get caught up in those patterns of repetitive negative thinking and procrastination, just to keep putting off things. So rather than that, if we can become more deliberate about saying that that repetitive thinking is going to just go away, and instead you're going to replace that with very, very defined thoughts that are actually helping you to develop something, to manifest something. So do be seriously aware of your thoughts and lead them in the direction and way that you would like them to go. The third aspect of your body availability is your energy body. Whatever we wish to do in life, we need energy. You might have heard the saying that energy is everything. Without energy, you just won't be able to manifest what you really wish. In fact, the bigger the thing to be accomplished, the more your energies need to be aligned a certain way. You've probably seen some people who have this really high energy about them, this positive energy about them, which is so um, which is so infectious. People get drawn towards that. And you wondered that there's some people who really manage to draw people. People feel that they can trust in them. People feel that, wow, I'll have what that person is having. There's just something about that. And on the other hand, whenever you see someone with negative or low energy, you want to stay away from that. So really be very, very sensitive to your energies, because that is what helps you to, to really create. People have used a lot of substances to be in that space. Sometimes, it's stimulants like coffee or alcohol or drugs. But all of those can really just help you to a point, and after that, they actually do the opposite. They make you dependent and they bring you down eventually. So really tap in to how nature has this ability for all of us to be able to tap in and really create the energy levels required for whatever we wish to manifest. So basically, it's these three bodies of yours, your which is your mind body, your physical body, and your energy body. So these three really need to be resolved. And by this, I don't mean that we take a moral stand in saying that, oh, everything has to be perfect, that you have to think in the ideal way, or your moral standards have to be high. That really is not what this is about. This is about not having anything that distracts or gets in the way of your being able to manifest your creativity. So really just becoming very, very aware, self-aware is what is required. Now let's move to the next aspect, which is your personal genius. This actually is nothing but who you are, what your life on the planet so far has consisted of. How tuned in to that are you? So the first aspect of this is your past. All of your past experiences need to be you need to be connected with them, because some kind of power is hidden in that, because that is your experience of life. That has made you who you are today. So whether it's been your interactions with people, whether it's been the different places you've traveled to, the different foods you've eaten, your education, pretty much everything that has been in your experience. Just use that, because there's so much value in that. I know that I have used my past in every which way. One thing that comes to mind is one of my music teachers, my guru, someone that I really looked up to. She was a person who, according to me, was perfection. She did everything to such an amazing level that I always wondered. She would sing fabulously, of course, but besides that, she was an excellent cook. The way that she had her home decor was fabulous. Her relationships, just the way that an ideal woman should be. She was the epitome of that for me. And once when I asked her that how could she excel at everything? She just smiled and shrugged, and she said that, this is Veena. And whatever she does to the best of her ability. And that small thing just kind of made its mark for me. I just love that thought that whatever we do it to the best of your ability, or don't do it at all. And I took that really as a mantra for my life. And I strive to do that in everything, even if I'm folding clothes. I really try to do the best. And sometimes my family isn't quite too pleased with that. They believe I have OCD in a certain way. So yeah, so basically, your past has um, a lot of power in for you to express, if you just choose to use that, because that is in your experience. It never helps if somebody just prescribes something. People rarely listen to prescriptions. It's when you have felt it, when it comes from within you, you connect with that idea. And that's the reason why your past has so much value. In fact, there was a very famous Indian film director called Mahesh Bhatt, and he was a Hindu boy born to a Hindu father, a Muslim mother, and he was an illegitimate child. And then he went on to have a very scandalous affair with an Indian schizophrenic actress. And he actually used all of this as raw material to tell his stories. And for Indian cinema, this was completely new. People had never seen something like this before. And so Mahesh became a cult figure, somebody who just created a new kind of cinema. And actually, all that he did was use the power of his past, which really helped him to connect with the audiences in an extremely truthful and deep way. So, really examine your past. There will be something. A lot of today's, new sort of businesses that we see, they follow this model of telling their own personal story, and there comes in the branding, and people connect and like that idea because they feel that, okay, this person seems to have really gone deep. This is a personal story, so I feel the quality will be good. So do kind of look into your past to see what is there that you could really use and work with. The next aspect is, what are your passions? What are your obsessions? What are you curious about? What do you love? Because whatever that might be, there will be something there, something that's unique and important to you. sometimes it could be a little weird. It might be something that you might be embarrassed to admit, but trust in that because there's some power to that, as did Anesthesia, the famous eyebrow stylist. She actually, from childhood, was obsessed with eyebrows. Now, this feels weird. Obsessed with eyebrows. What does that even mean? I'll bet that she was confused. And I can only imagine what her family thought about this obsession. Nonetheless, she actually went on to become Hollywood's most desired eyebrow stylist. She had this huge waiting list of Hollywood superstars. And she also went on to develop the world's first eyebrow stencil, where you can just fill in the powder and have the perfect eyebrow. So there's something that when you trust in something within you that you like, there will be something there for you to explore and find. The last aspect is your own multidisciplinary skills. So what are your different skills and abilities? That's something that you can use, because when these are integrated, there is something new that you have to offer. If you have one skill and you think, oh, there's no way that I could achieve mastery in that, because I mean, as a musician, this is something that I've dealt with. When I saw the greats, I would think that there's no way I could ever get my skill level to that point. But you slowly start to realize that it may not be just mastery at the skill level, but when you combine your own different abilities, they all create a new and unique, a new personification of that thing. Something new happens there. So just by yourself, it wouldn't be possible. But when you combine your different multidisciplinary skills, you do have something new to offer the world. I myself have felt that my music has greatly helped my art, as my art has helped my music. In fact, my reading has helped me come up with so many different ideas and material for both my music and my art. Also, my deep quest for spirituality has helped me overall to come up with a different perception on life and has greatly helped my creations to take on a different dimension overall. So the whole effort of this exercise is actually just to develop and bring a heightened sense of awareness. Rather, I should say self-awareness. So to recap once again, we have the first section, which is on body availability, that just basically checking in with your physical body, your mental body, and your energy body, seeing how these are aligned. And then the next aspect is really being in tune with your past, being deeply connected with whatever you love, whatever you're curious about. And by being very, very alert and watchful to seeing how you can integrate your different multidisciplinary skills to help you create your own unique and original creation. So when we're able to combine all of these aspects, you're actually able to access your creativity. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you. I think we can open it up for any questions.
All right. So those in the audience, please put in your questions. It'll come to the host and co-host. I will, let's see. Okay, first question. What advice do you have for someone that says they're not creative but would like to be?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Shauna. I think that, as I explained, I feel that a lot of us don't really understand what the nature of creativity is. So, creativity is something which is inherent within us, and it doesn't have to be associated with anything artistic. Creativity is just the way, our approach to doing whatever we're doing. And mostly, I feel that when we feel we're not creative, I have gone through both of those phases of feeling extremely creative and also of feeling completely stuck and blocked. And actually, that was the reason for this whole the PhD, the inquiry into the nature of creativity. That what exactly is this beast? So I really realized that it's nothing but something which happens so naturally, almost like you could say that the way we don't think about how do we breathe. I mean, it's such a natural thing. It's part of our DNA. It's part of how we express. I feel that the problem is we don't recognize that or we aren't able to connect with that. Just like I explained that a lot of people actually saw the apple fall straight down, but it took a Newton to make that connection and not just make it, but to actually do the work needed to be able to make and establish that into the law of gravity. So I think that wonderful, beautiful ideas are just there all around us. But what gets in the way is that we are not able to connect with that. So, the process that I just explained, I think that it would be of great value to kind of really try that out and see if that really helps you connect or at least establish the preconditions so that then your creativity can manifest, can emerge. I hope that explains or answers your question.
Does. Thank you. All right. I don't see any questions coming to chat yet, but don't fear. I have a couple more prepared. Oh, here we go. So Megan asks, are there specific steps that you can suggest to unblock ourselves when we're not feeling creative? That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks for that, Megan. I feel that that's the reason actually for establishing these 6 steps, if you will, because that's actually all that we have to work with. So when we feel blocked, there's no magic thing that would just allow something. It comes from, I think, a combination of deep desire, longing, and it comes from awareness of ourselves, because that's the only place we come from. And from there, you start to get the deeper sense of awareness overall, as to just that quietness, a connection with from within with the outside that helps things to just emerge. As in the story of in that Zen wisdom story, where there's this boy who actually wanted to learn what it means to be a burglar. It's about escaping. It's really all about just escaping. And that's what the father wanted to teach him. And so he just left him. There were no prescriptions, there was nothing. And from this, another interesting aspect comes of prescriptions. Everybody likes to have a how to. The problem with how to's are that they never really work. If they did, I mean, considering the amount of books written, everybody would have figured out a lot of things and would be really good by now. But they don't really work because inherently our human tendencies are we like to figure out things for ourselves. We like to feel that we understood how to do something. And that's the only time we actually end up doing it. So I think the only process is through deep self reflection and a thorough self examination. I hope that answers the question, Megan.
Got another one. Layden says, what you shared with us tonight was based on your personal life experience, or did they come from your academic education?
Yeah. So Leighton, this actually nothing has come from my academic education because I actually, to be honest, don't have too much of an academic education. I I did graphic design for my bachelor's, and then my master's was in Indian classical music. So all of these were, in a sense, art forms. And the PhD now that I'm pursuing is the first time that I'm actually strongly in an academic place. And in fact, a lot of the material that I've been reading and going through on this journey has just helped me reinforce this idea that a lot of things are not merely of what I have sort of explained today, are not from an academic area. They're more from actually spiritual teachings as well as my own personally felt experiences. And they did align to a certain extent with whatever was written. I can say that I have read like tons of books on creativity. And the sad thing was, after reading all of these books, I mean, the titles were like everything: deep creativity, intense creativity. I mean, everything with creativity. And I wondered that how come I don't feel any bit more creative after reading all of this? That's when I realized that any sort of prescription, especially on a topic like creativity, won't work because it could only describe one small aspect, but it wouldn't really be able to really teach a person how to be creative. Because just the nature of the word creativity is something which is completely unique to the person. It's not something, if the minute somebody tells you, the creativity is killed right there. If somebody says, do this, use your five senses, and you'd be able to create. I mean, to be honest, when a person goes deep within and when that awareness really starts to, you start to feel connected with that, you don't need anyone to tell you, use your five senses. I think a lot of what has to happen just happens instinctively. But somehow we are reluctant, we resist going through this process. So it's not too much of an intellectual kind of uh, sort of journey for me that helped me to reach this understanding. It was a lot more from personal experience, from my discussions with a lot of other my colleagues, practitioners of both music, the arts, and also actually lay people, just the average person who is from a lot of different fields. And everybody just really agreed that, yes, this is really what was happening. So that's how I reached this understanding.
Did
You're muted, Shauna.
follow-up question to that. Why did you decide to pursue a PhD degree?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, to be honest, I wouldn't have believed that I could ever find myself in a sort of academic scenario because I thought I was out of that like from my 10th grade pretty much. But I think that life took its own course when in 2018, I was actually sitting with a friend of mine in a coffee shop, and she had brought along a friend of hers. This happened in India, and there was a friend of hers visiting from the United States, and that friend had been called in at the Symbiosis business school to come and revamp a lot of their programs. And I had no idea about this. And we were just having a great conversation and we were just speaking generally. And suddenly at the end of our meeting, she turned around and said, hey, you should design a course for our liberal arts department. And I was wondering what sort of course. I said, do you mean a course in music or in the arts? And she said, no, a course in creativity. And I really wondered, what I could say on that. So I even asked her, I said, but what would I have to say on that? She said, everything the way you spoke now, just put that together. I think there'll be a really good course. And I recognized that there was a huge opportunity here, because when such a prestigious school invites someone like me to design my own course with no background, it was too big an opportunity to let go. And I still remember I was in India and my husband was in Seattle, and there was this time difference, and I was super excited. And I called him, I think it was 3 a.m. over here. And I was like super excited that I have this opportunity, but I'm not sure that I can do anything with it. And he told me, he said, he first asked me to calm down. And he said that I'll just start asking you some questions. And that will perhaps allow this course to get formed. And so he asked me actually some great questions. Like he asked me, what would be of real use to, what would have been really helpful to you if somebody had told you, given you these words of advice when you began your journey 30 years back. And so that whole process started. And pretty much what I describe now is what the course was all about. And it just sort of flowed. It was something that wasn't planned. It was instinctive more than anything. And actually, this course went on to become one of the most popular courses at the Symbiosis. And it was titled Inspired Living Unveiled. And actually, I'd probably still be teaching it, but because of the pandemic, I returned back. And now I'm writing a book on the same. And that's when I started, as you start to get deeper and deeper into a topic, I think that draws you. And a PhD becomes one of the ultimate opportunities to really dig deep. And it's also doesn't allow it to be just a self-done process. You have your guides and some more people who sort of help you on the journey. So that's the reason for the PhD.
Okay, here we go. Another question from Thomas. Community, like Toastmasters, can encourage creativity. One speech contains the seeds of many more and other pursuits. Is that a question, Thomas?
So I don't think I got the question.
Oh, it's more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so true. That's absolutely. I think that, the seeds are there in every idea. There's like potential for so much to come from, or so much, more left that you can pick. So that's totally true.
We have time for one more.
Mhm.
Wait just a second if I have one in chat. If not, I've got one prepared for you. Going once, going twice. All right. Do you have any strategies for combating the negative self-talk?
Personally, I think that for me, and this is personal, I think that it's also comes a little bit from my tradition, which, in which spirituality is a big aspect. So I think that what I have personally used has been when the negative thought arises, it's about taking a different spin on it. This might sound weird and might not make sense to many people, but something that I have done in my life, which actually helped me greatly and deeply in, when I spoke about my sinus issues, and all of that actually is impacts, because our whole being, our thoughts can really greatly disturb our entire personality. So I found that that was happening because some issues had happened in my life for which, which really, there was nothing that I had done to have to face what I did. There was absolutely nothing after examining it from everything. So there was a lot of negativity attached to that. And suddenly, once I remember hearing some spiritual talk in which the person described that if you feel that something has happened to you for which that it was just completely unjustified, that there was no reason, that there was nothing that you had done for you to have to suffer that. They believe that it's something which is because a lot Indian philosophy believes in the cycle of rebirths and karma. Karma is, any action that you do, any cause that you create will have an effect, whether you like it or not. So if you put your hand in fire, it's going to burn. Whether it's nothing about whether one likes it or not. It's just what it is. And so this lady, when she was speaking, she sort of explained that if something carries over, it's perhaps from another lifetime that maybe you did something that was not nice. And so maybe that, and when it comes to time for you to, sort of for the effect to manifest, at that time you have no business complaining, because right now you wouldn't be able to see it, but the universe keeps these accounts. And frankly, I don't know whether that's true or not, but just that philosophy really worked for me. It's something that I personally really embraced. And not just did it help me with my relationships where I felt that, yeah, no, what they believed wasn't right. And, a lot of the negativity that happened, it helped me actually completely uh, sort of completely just let go. And I just felt that no, perhaps, this seems unjustified today, but maybe at some time I had created the situation that, that's how this was going to come back. And it allowed me to completely forgive. And it's amazing that through that act of forgiveness, now those very same people are some of the closest to me, that the way that they believe in me now is, it's unbelievable that just that act of genuinely letting go and just changing the way I thought about negativity, that really just allowed me to reverse something. And it's a magical thing. And I've seen that whenever I'm actually able to do that, things just take an amazing quality of their own. So I'm not sure whether this works, because I feel that mentally you have to really accept that to be able to switch to this sort of a mindset. So this is what I've personally found that has really helped me. And this actually helped me with my entire perception of life. So after this, whenever anything negative happened, I remember that I was once taking a drawing class at the Gage. This was perhaps 15 years back. And there was I'm not sure, I think there was a Spanish guy who had a really good artist. I won't take his name. He actually yelled at me for no reason in class. And somehow I felt that he just felt that I was someone with whom he could get away with it. And the entire class was shocked. And everyone came to me and said that you should really complain about him. But I think my Indian traditions, in which I've been yelled at so much, to become good and to work, that somehow I was just completely unaffected by what he said. And I focused really hard. At the end of it, I had one of the best paintings in class. And not just that, but the guy was so embarrassed about his own behavior that till now he keeps on sending me emails and messages. So what I've realized is that really it's the way that you process whatever negative happens. I'm not saying it's easy, but this is one of the ways that actually has helped me to find a sort of stability in my thinking. However, things play on the outside, it's that awareness that there's always a bigger picture to something. And eventually, actually, where it comes to creativity, I think one really has to sit down and decide that, am I going to be stuck in this repetitive negativity noise? Or is there something bigger that I need to do? And for that, I need to just move away from that and reorganize the mind to be able to think and use the mind in a productive way. Because ultimately, if one wants to be stuck there, it's almost impossible to pull oneself out. But when somebody is determined to move away, somehow the right solutions, the right ways will just emerge. The path will be found.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chandana. And thank you everyone for participating and being here. We hope you all enjoyed tonight's presentation, but our week of Ed Sessions isn't over yet. Wednesday evening at 6:30, through the same link, the main conference link, join Rebecca Murray and Lindy McLean's Ed Session, Rising to the Top, using character and dialogue to deliver the unforgettable. It is an edutainment session, so it should be a lot of fun. Saturday morning is the main event where we have our 3 keynote speakers, the 2021 World Champion of Public Speaking, Verity Price, Morag Matheson and Ronald Chapman, and then a networking and breakout sessions at 11 a.m. with Bob King and Donna Smith. And Saturday morning's keynote speaker session begins early at 8 a.m. We have to put in the time difference for Verity since she's in South Africa. And Saturday evening is our in-person awards ceremony theme, Sparks Ablaze, which begins at 4:00 p.m. at the Maiden Bauer Center. It will also be a hybrid event on Zoom, and it's not too late to purchase your in-person tickets. They're $50, and that includes dinner, and you do have the option to get your dinner to go, and we want to be mindful about fellow Toastmasters' feelings about the pandemic and COVID, so masks are encouraged but not required per local guidelines. And as of right now, we will have plenty of space to social distance in, but join us at the Maiden Bauer Center, and all of the information can be found on the D2TM calendar. Sunday morning at 10 a.m., Angela Barris is going to give us a presentation about the Speakers Bureau, and that afternoon at 1 p.m., the conference wraps up with the district speech contest. So we look forward to seeing you all at the upcoming events, but for now, have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Night,
Bye.
Vinod.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Well, thank you so